I walked into my empty house, finally alone after 3 years of chaos. The silence felt like a luxury I had forgotten existed. 3 years ago, I thought I had found true love with Allison. I believed Jordan, her 15-year-old daughter, would eventually see me as the supportive father figure she needed. I invested everything in building this family financially and emotionally. But sometimes what looks like love is actually calculated manipulation. If you are watching this video right now, let me know where you are tuning in from. Hit that like and subscribe button as I share how I finally found the courage to reclaim my life from those who saw me as nothing but a walking bank account. My story begins at Riverside Coffee, a small cafe 2 blocks from the accounting firm where I worked. I was 32 then, focused on my career rather than dating. That Tuesday afternoon, I noticed Allison instantly. She had this captivating smile while talking to the barista, radiating warmth that seemed to brighten the entire room. When she accidentally bumped into me spilling her coffee across my white shirt, our conversation started with apologies, but quickly evolved into something more. Dating a single mother was something I had always been hesitant about. My own parents had a rock-solid marriage of 40 years, and I always envisioned building something similar from scratch with someone. But Allison challenged my preconceptions. During our first dinner date, she spoke proudly about raising Jordan while building her career as a marketing consultant. She emphasized her independence, insisting on paying for her half of dinner despite my offers. "I want any man in my life to want me, not feel needed by me," she said, and I admired that philosophy. Our third date was when I first met Jordan. Allison had prepared her for the meeting, and the 13-year-old girl who greeted me seemed remarkably poised. She asked thoughtful questions about my work and hobbies, even showing interest in my passion for building model aircraft. "My grandpa used to build those," she said, with what appeared to be genuine enthusiasm. "He taught me a little before he passed away." That connection felt meaningful, and over the following months our relationship blossomed. Allison was attentive, intelligent, and seemed to truly value what we were building together. Jordan would occasionally join our outings, and while sometimes quiet, she was unfailingly polite. I began imagining us as a real family, thinking perhaps I had found something even better than what I had originally envisioned. After 11 months of dating, I proposed during a weekend trip to Lake Tahoe. The wedding was intimate, just 40 guests at a charming vineyard. Jordan served as her mother's maid of honor, giving a speech that brought tears to my eyes when she thanked me for making Mom happy again. Our honeymoon in Hawaii was everything I had dreamed a honeymoon should be. Using most of my savings, I purchased a 4-bedroom house in a neighborhood with excellent schools. Allison seemed genuinely moved when I showed her the house, especially the home office I had set up for her marketing work. I had also dedicated one room as a creative space for Jordan, with an easel, art supplies, and a comfortable reading nook. "This is more than I ever imagined for us," Allison whispered, hugging me tightly. The first troubling signs emerged about 2 months after moving in together. I had created a chore chart for all of us, believing in sharing responsibilities equally. Jordan simply ignored her assignments, leaving dishes unwashed and her spaces in disarray. When I gently mentioned this to Allison, her response caught me off guard. "She is still adjusting to all these changes, Sage. We cannot push her too hard right now." I accepted this explanation, believing that patience would eventually pay dividends. Instead of insisting on chores, I tried connecting with Jordan through other means. I bought tickets to concerts by artists she liked. I took us all to basketball games, remembering she mentioned playing on her school team. I even organized weekend trips to nearby attractions she might enjoy. My efforts seemed futile. Jordan would reluctantly join us, but spent most times on her phone responding with one-word answers when I attempted conversation. Allison would squeeze my hand reassuringly, whispering that teenagers were simply difficult sometimes. The situation escalated when I came home early one day to find my prized model aircraft collection in pieces on the floor. These were models I had built with my late father, irreplaceable connections to cherished memories. Jordan claimed she had accidentally knocked into the display case while vacuuming, but the systematic damage to every single model suggested otherwise. When I expressed my devastation to Allison, she defended her daughter immediately. "It was just an accident, Sage. They are just objects. Family is what matters." Around this time, I also began noticing concerning patterns in our finances. Despite our agreement to maintain proportional contributions to household expenses, Allison always seemed to have reasons why she needed to reduce her share temporarily. Her client payments were delayed. She needed to invest in new marketing software. Jordan needed specialized tutoring. The burden of our expenses gradually shifted until I was covering nearly everything. One evening, reviewing our joint account statements, I discovered Allison had purchased designer clothing worth thousands of dollars while telling me she could not contribute to the mortgage that month. When confronted, she became tearful, claiming she was struggling with anxiety, and shopping sometimes helped her cope. Wanting to be supportive, I suggested therapy instead of retail therapy. She agreed, but never actually scheduled an appointment. As months passed, I increasingly felt like an outsider in my own home. Allison and Jordan shared inside jokes and made plans without including me. What had started as a dream of family was becoming a lonely existence under the same roof, with two strangers who seemed united in their disregard for my feelings. The problems with Jordan continued to multiply. Her school called one afternoon about her frequent absences. Absences Allison had supposedly excused, but never mentioned to me. I later discovered Jordan had been skipping school to hang out with older teenagers at the mall. More disturbingly, small amounts of money began disappearing from my wallet. When I installed a small camera in my home office, I captured Jordan stealing $60 while I was showering. The parent-teacher conference that winter was illuminating in all the wrong ways. Jordan was failing 3 classes, and her teachers described behavior problems, including talking back and refusing to complete assignments. One teacher gently suggested family counseling, noting that Jordan often made comments about not needing another father telling her what to do. That evening, I discovered Jordan had created social media accounts under a false name accounts where she regularly posted mocking comments about me. She called me ATM man and joked about how her mother and she were living the good life on my dime. There were even videos filmed in our home where she gave tours of the house my mom snagged, referring to my possessions as future items she would inherit once Mom locks this down permanently. I showed these posts to Allison expecting shared concern. Instead, she accused me of invading Jordan's privacy by monitoring her social media. When I pointed out these were public posts, anyone could see she shifted to minimizing the behavior. She is just processing the changes in her life. All teenagers say dramatic things for attention. My disillusionment deepened when I accidentally opened what I thought was our joint credit card statement, only to discover Allison had a separate card I knew nothing about, with a balance exceeding $20,000. This hidden debt existed while she continued claiming inability to contribute fairly to our household. The situation at home deteriorated further when Jordan began inviting friends over without permission during school hours. One afternoon, I returned home unexpectedly with a migraine to find 5 teenagers in our living room smoking marijuana and drinking beer. They had broken a bookshelf containing family heirlooms and spilled drinks on an antique rug passed down from my grandmother. After that incident, I reached out to Peter Jordan's biological father, hoping to gain some perspective. Our conversation at a local diner was eye-opening. Peter described a pattern nearly identical to what I was experiencing, including financial drain, property damage, and Allison's consistent defense of Jordan's behavior regardless of its severity. He admitted with visible shame that he had eventually moved to another state, partly to escape the financial and emotional chaos. "I still send child support, but I had to create distance to save myself," he explained. "Allison has a talent for making you feel like you are the problem when you object to anything." With this troubling insight, I sought help from a therapist. Dr. Matthews helped me recognize the patterns of emotional and financial manipulation in my marriage. She introduced concepts like gaslighting and explained how my desire to be a good husband and stepfather was being exploited. With her guidance, I began documenting incidents, keeping careful financial records, and working on establishing healthier boundaries. After 6 sessions, I felt strong enough to have a serious conversation with Allison about our future. I outlined my concerns, calmly focusing on specific behaviors rather than accusations. I explained that I felt used financially and disrespected in my own home. Allison responded with tears and promises of change. "I had no idea you felt this way," she said, seeming genuinely distressed. "We never meant to hurt you. Please give us another chance to be the family you deserve." For several weeks, things actually improved. Jordan began completing some chores without complaint. Allison contributed to the household account and showed me receipts for canceling her extra credit cards. They both seemed to make efforts to include me in conversations and activities. I cautiously allowed myself to hope we had turned a corner. Dr. Matthews warned me to maintain vigilance, noting that temporary behavior changes were common when manipulative people felt their security threatened. Real change requires accountability and consistent effort over time, she advised. Watch for reversion to old patterns once they feel the danger has passed. Unfortunately, her prediction proved accurate. As soon as I relaxed my boundaries, the old behaviors gradually returned. Jordan resumed ignoring chores and treating me with thinly veiled contempt. Allison began making excuses about financial contributions again. The cycle was repeating, but this time I recognized it for what it was. I began to seriously question Allison's motives in our relationship. Was it possible our entire marriage had been strategically planned? The timing of her increased affection, whenever financial issues arose, suddenly seemed suspicious. The way Jordan occasionally let slip comments about the plan or Phase 2 during arguments with her mother took on new troubling meanings in this context. The breaking point arrived with my promotion to senior financial analyst. This advancement represented years of dedicated work, and part of securing my new position involved hosting a crucial dinner for international clients at our home. My supervisor had emphasized how this event could cement relationships with clients worth millions to our firm. I spent weeks planning every detail. I hired a professional cleaning service to prepare the house, reserved a catering company known for impressing corporate clients, and carefully selected wines recommended by an expert. I prepared comprehensive briefing materials for each attendee and rehearsed my presentation repeatedly. The dinner represented not just professional opportunity, but personal validation of my capabilities. The morning of the dinner, I confirmed with Allison that she would ensure Jordan behaved appropriately during the event. She assured me everything would be perfect, and that Jordan understood the importance of the evening. I left for a pre-dinner meeting downtown, feeling cautiously optimistic. Returning home, 3 hours before guests were scheduled to arrive, I opened the door to absolute chaos. Music blasted at deafening volume, while at least 15 teenagers trashed my carefully prepared home. The catering setup was ruined, with teenagers helping themselves to the expensive appetizers meant for clients. Several were swimming in our pool, having tracked water and mud throughout the house. 2 boys were attempting skateboard tricks off our living room furniture. I spotted Jordan lounging on our kitchen counter, laughing as a boy spray-painted graffiti on the wall we had just repainted for the occasion. The smell of marijuana hung heavily in the air, and several liquor bottles from my collection lay empty on the floor. When Jordan saw me, she smirked before lazily telling her friends, "Party over. ATM man is home early." I ordered everyone out immediately, my voice shaking with a combination of shock and rage. After the teenagers scattered, I surveyed the devastating damage. The house was beyond what even emergency cleaning could fix. Several valuable items were missing, including my grandfather's watch and a tablet containing my presentation. Wine bottles meant for the dinner had been consumed, including a rare vintage gift from my boss. I called Allison in a panic, explaining the situation and the certainty that I would need to cancel the dinner. Rather than rushing home to help, she sounded oddly unconcerned. "Kids will be kids, Sage. I am sure you are exaggerating the damage. Just order pizza instead of the fancy food. Your clients will understand." Her dismissive tone crystallized everything I had been feeling for months. This was not partnership. This was exploitation. I called my boss, apologized profusely, and asked to move the dinner to a restaurant at my personal expense. Though clearly disappointed, he agreed, though I could hear the damage this did to his perception of my reliability. Allison and Jordan returned home together shortly after my devastating call. Neither showed any genuine remorse. Jordan went straight to her room, rolling her eyes, when I attempted to discuss the consequences of her actions. Allison minimized the situation repeatedly. "It is not the end of the world. You can still have your dinner another time." When I pressed about the deliberate nature of the destruction, pointing out this had happened, exactly when Jordan knew how important it was to me, I caught a fleeting expression on her face. It was not guilt or embarrassment. It was satisfaction. "Did you know about this party?" I asked directly. After several minutes of circular conversation, the truth emerged. Not only had Allison known, but she had actually dropped Jordan and her friends off at the house knowing I would be gone. When I asked why she would deliberately sabotage something so important to me, her answer changed everything. "Maybe I am tired of everything always being about your career and your needs. Maybe Jordan and I deserve some consideration too. I have given everything to you both." I responded, my voice breaking. "I pay for this house, all our expenses, Jordan's private school tuition, the vacations, everything. What more could you possibly want from me?" The conversation escalated until Allison finally said words that could never be unsaid. "Did you really think I married you for love? I needed security for Jordan and me, after Peter left us with nothing. You were safe, stable, and so eager to play daddy to someone else's child." As this painful truth hung in the air, Jordan appeared in the doorway listening. Rather than appearing upset by her mother's admission, she laughed. "Took you long enough to figure it out," she said to me. "Mom said you were smart with numbers, but dumb with people." In that moment, watching them exchange knowing glances, something broke in me. But something stronger was also born. I felt clarity and certainty replace confusion and hurt. I had been played from the beginning, but the game was now over. "I want both of you out of my house," I said with surprising calmness. "You have 30 days to find somewhere else to live." Allison's expression transformed instantly from contempt to panic. "You cannot just throw us out. This is my home too. We are married. This house is solely in my name." I replied, thankful I had not added her to the deed despite her frequent suggestions. "I will be filing for divorce tomorrow morning. You should begin looking for alternative accommodation immediately." The following day, I took a personal day from work and met with Thomas Griffin, a divorce attorney highly recommended for cases involving financial manipulation. He listened carefully to my situation, reviewed the documentation I had compiled, and outlined my options clearly. "Based on the brief duration of your marriage and the evidence of financial deception, we have a strong case to limit spousal support," he explained. "The house being solely in your name simplifies matters considerably. As for personal property, we will create a detailed inventory of pre-marriage assets." I followed his advice precisely, first securing my remaining valuables in a safe deposit box. I documented the damage to the house with photographs and videos, obtaining estimates for repairs that totaled over $8,000. I changed passwords on all financial accounts and credit cards, leaving only the joint household account active with limited funds for the transition period. When I presented Allison with divorce papers, her tactics shifted dramatically. First came tears and pleas for forgiveness, claims that she had spoken out of anger and did not mean what she said. When I remained unmoved, she progressed to promises of change, suggesting marriage counseling and family therapy. Finally, seeing none of this was working, she resorted to threats. "You will regret this," she warned. "I will tell everyone you were abusive, that you mistreated Jordan. No one will believe you over a mother and her traumatized daughter." I recalled my attorney's advice for this scenario and responded calmly. All communication between us should go through our lawyers from now on, and walked away. The weeks that followed were undeniably difficult. Though I had legally established a deadline for them to vacate, we still shared living space during this transition. I spent as much time as possible at work or with supportive friends. When home, I kept interaction minimal and recorded any necessary conversations as Thomas had advised. Allison attempted to rally mutual friends against me, spinning a narrative of abandonment and cruelty. Some believed her, and their disapproving messages hurt more than I wanted to admit. Jordan escalated her disruptive behavior, playing music at maximum volume at night and intentionally creating messes in common areas. I maintained boundaries without engaging in their provocations. The community pressure intensified when Allison shared a carefully edited version of events with our neighbors and church members. Several people I had considered friends approached me with concerns about how I could abandon a woman and her child. Rather than defending myself with the full truth, I simply stated that there were aspects of the situation they were not privy to, and I was acting in accordance with my own well-being. Finally, moving day arrived. I arranged to be absent as they removed their belongings, having my brother supervise to ensure only their property left the premises. Returning to an emptier but peaceful home that evening marked the beginning of reclaiming my life. The house felt simultaneously hollow and full of possibility. The financial aftermath was substantial. Beyond the legal fees and repair costs, I discovered additional credit accounts Allison had opened in my name, requiring extensive work with credit agencies to dispute. My retirement savings had been significantly depleted by supporting our inflated lifestyle. I created a strict 3-year plan to rebuild financial security, including renting out 2 bedrooms to trusted coworkers temporarily. More challenging was rebuilding my social connections and self-trust. I had isolated myself from many friends during my marriage, focusing entirely on trying to make Allison and Jordan happy. Reconnecting required vulnerability and explaining what had happened, but true friends responded with support rather than judgment. Forgiving myself proved most difficult. How had I missed so many warning signs, Doctor? Matthews helped me understand that manipulative people specifically target compassionate individuals and that my desire to help and support a family was not a weakness but a strength that had been exploited. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, I began experiencing moments of genuine peace again. My home became a sanctuary rather than a battleground. I resumed hobbies. I had abandoned rebuilding my model collection and joining a weekend hiking group. While not ready to date again, I no longer feared connection. 1 year later, I scarcely recognized the man who had so desperately tried to buy love through financial sacrifice and endless accommodation of bad behavior. I had established clear standards for how I deserved to be treated in any relationship. I understood that genuine love involved mutual respect, honesty, and appropriate boundaries. I occasionally heard updates about Allison and Jordan through mutual acquaintances. They had moved in with Allison's next relationship prospect, a successful dentist with a waterfront condo. I felt no satisfaction in this news, only hope that perhaps they might have learned something too. More likely, the cycle would continue until they encountered someone else who established firm boundaries. The pain I experienced led to growth I might never have achieved otherwise. I learned that self-respect is not selfishness. That establishing and maintaining boundaries is not just healthy, but necessary. Most importantly, I discovered that walking away from toxicity, even when disguised as family, can be the most courageous act of self-love. If you have ever been manipulated by someone who claimed to love, you know that recognizing the pattern is the first step to breaking free. Have you ever had to make the difficult choice to prioritize your well-being over a toxic relationship? Share your experience in the comments below. Your story might help someone else find the strength to reclaim their life. If this resonated with you, please like this video, subscribe to my channel, and share with someone who might need to hear this message today. Remember, sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away. Thank you for listening to my story.